I don't have time to do stuff I don't want to do. And that is an important thing, is figuring out what it is you love doing. And you'll make time for things you love to do. So find what it is you don't like doing, get rid of it. So when the opportunity comes to actually do something you do want to do, you can dive in.
Hi, and welcome to Speaker Life. I'm your host, Lea Woodford, and I got a treat for you. I have a dear friend. He is Sean Dowdell, founder of Club Tattoo, but he's also a rocker as well as a speaker. Welcome to the show, Sean.
Thanks for having me today, Leah.
So, Sean, we met because someone gave me your book, The Tattooed Millionaire, and I read it in 2 days. And I called him. And we met. That's actually, I don't even remember how many years ago, but I've been watching you.
It's 2017.
Wow, that's right.
I remember you sent me an email, and then we got on the phone and you invited me to lunch, and that's how we met for the first time.
Well, he has a great memory. I knew, but it all started with a book. And what I learned from that book was you're a powerful communicator. You drew me right into that story about you being a teenager and you're working in a Mexican restaurant. So I knew you had the work ethic, but you built Club Tattoo in your early 20s. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, when I was 21 years old, I started my first business thinking that it was going to be a way to fund my passion at the time when I was in the music industry. I was in a touring band and we were doing well and the music was going great, but we weren't making money when we came off the road. So I initially started my business to fund my life when I was on the road with the band. And eventually, as I got out of the music industry in the late 90s, my passion turned inwards towards the business, and I really became a real entrepreneur and studied the mechanics of what made the business work, what I was doing wrong, and what I needed to improve on the business model.
Now, can you tell our viewing audience about Club Tattoo? Because you're different than the other tattoo studios out there.
Club Tattoo is a luxury brand that is a tattoo and piercing lifestyle brand that offers obviously tattoos and piercings, but also fine jewelry. It is an elevated experience. It is a differentiation than most tattoo parlors, as you just alluded to. And I think that's by design.
They're beautiful. When you go in there, it's just really luxurious, very upscale. Women do not feel intimidated going in there at all. It was just a completely different experience. But you also changed laws and you have patents. So you had to learn how to speak. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I do have 3 patents, and I have helped legislation in 2 different states on some of the laws that affect the tattoo and piercing industry. I'm very passionate about what I do, and safety has to be the first thing. Otherwise, everything else is not as productive or important along the way. So as I got into some of these rooms, I had to learn how to articulate a position or a debate, an argument that not only was sound in its form and function, but also in a way that was communicated the way I intended it to. So dealing with legislation and senators and congressmen, it's not like dealing with an everyday customer. You have to learn how to navigate those waters a little differently.
And you were pretty young at the time too.
Oh, well, yeah. The first time I did a legislation, I believe I was 29.
Wow.
So,
can you guys imagine walking into legislation and seeing all these old senators and you're just really a young kid?
I was. And as much as I thought I knew about the world, as we all did when we were in our 20s, I had a lot to learn. But I think that was one of the things that made people listen to me a little bit more, as I was willing to listen to them and I was willing to learn along the way. And I didn't have the know-it-all attitude. I thought I had a good idea of direction of where I wanted to go with the legislation in this case, but I was also open to hear them back in the way that was, let me rephrase that. I was also willing to bend my direction or view to fit the end goal, which is so important. A lot of people get lost in the process and they forget what the end result is, or that they're truly seeking. So that really helped me at a young age try to navigate through some of that.
Well, that's kind of a tough way to get into the speaking business. Now, Sean, every speaker hits a wall at some point. What was the biggest challenge you've ever faced on the stage?
I think it's probably universal for most speakers is the fear of getting on that stage and having people not be interested in what you're actually trying to say to them as a crowd. For me, once I got past that and I realized that the crowds actually were interested in what I had to say, my biggest fear from that point was making sure that I was adding value to the room I was in. So that comes through preparation for me. I have to go over and over and over whatever it is that I'm trying to articulate on the next stage and make sure that I'm delivering value to the listener.
So you're a rocker, though. How much did being a rock star help you with stage presence?
I thought initially that it was going to help me a lot, but I'm a drummer and not a singer. And I think those two roles on the stage really were a lot different. As a speaker, I think being a singer and being a speaker would be a little bit more paralleled, but I thought because I was on a stage as a drummer, it was going to help me immensely and it would come naturally, and it didn't. I tripped over words. I used and these awkward spaces and tried to fill space sometimes, and I didn't understand the magnitude or importance of proper pause and just letting things happen in a natural flow and not try to fill every void on the stage with nothing words.
You know, and I think that's something that we see with a lot of new speakers, and sometimes even the old speakers. They want to fill in the pregnant pause is really uncomfortable for a lot of people.
It was early on for me. I've learned to embrace it. You know, we were speaking before we got on camera about the obstacle is the way sometimes. When I'm on stage now and I have something that's not a rehearsed part of my presentation and I'm actually thinking about an answer, or somebody asks a really great question, I don't have a problem with taking a minute and actually analyzing what it was that was asked of me so that I can give a really well thought through answer. And as a young speaker, that was really uncomfortable. And you kind of wanted to rush through to get an answer out. As I've done it a little bit longer, not nearly as long as you have, but I'm a lot more comfortable up on the stage and taking my time.
You know, and I love that because Oprah talks really slowly, but she does, unlike me, she doesn't use scripts. Not that these are just guides for me, but I've learned a lot from her too, in that it's okay to, you know, have a pause and a cadence, a slower cadence, because it allows your audience, but it allows you to gather your thoughts so what you say actually makes impact.
I agree.
So what is 3 tips that you would give yourself if you were starting speaking, say you were 25 again? What would you do?
I think for young speakers, if they're taking it as a serious craft or a career path, finding a speaker coach really helped me. I had a lady named Debbie Allen, who you just had on the show previously. I hired her and she made a massive impact on my abilities on that stage and my confidence. It was night and day from before till after I went through that process first. So that would be first, is seek out somebody with expertise and don't be afraid to pay for it. A lot of times you're going to get free advice on the internet that can be helpful, but if you truly want to find an expert in the field of something you're trying to learn, it comes with a cost. And that cost will be more meaningful to you. And as a speaker or anything in business, by the way, that investment will mean more to you over time. So invest into yourself if you're really taking it on as a craft would probably be number 2. And the third thing that I would say, be patient. Everybody wants to be on that big stage, but you also have to know not only your audience, but you have to know whether or not you're capable or in the right place in your career to get on those specific stages. Don't be in a hurry to fail. Take a little bit at a time, hone your craft, get good at it, get your message a little bit better prepared along the way, and curate what it is you're trying to get. And then that big stage will come once you've done that a few times, many times, to be honest. But get through that. You know, practice makes perfect. Get on those smaller stages. Even if there's 5 people in the room, run through your material. No different than a comic. You have to learn how to deliver that message in a way that is smooth and builds that confidence so that when that big stage comes, you're ready for it.
So true, Sean. Now let's switch gears. Let's talk about gray days.
Okay.
because you're finally living your dream from your 20s. Can we talk about that? You're
Sure.
touring. You've got a record that's charting right now. Let's talk about Daze and its origins.
So I started a band back in the early 90s called Daze, and we got through several albums through the mid 90s, had a couple of record deals, toured the United States, did quite well. And then the band eventually broke up in mid 1998. Our lead singer was somebody that most people are familiar with, named Chester Bennington. He went on to be the lead singer of Linkin Park and all of that massive success globally. And he became my business partner in 2003 with Club Tattoo, best of friends all the way up until 2016. We decided to put Daze back together. We were working on an album right up until the point in 2017, and Chester tragically took his own life. He was not only a great friend, he was a great husband, a great dad, just a great guy. He was a truly, genuinely, authentic, amazing human being. And it's not just because he's gone. I would say that if he was sitting right here. And he is actually sitting right here. I feel him all the time. But he was an amazing person. And through the loss of Chester, we had all this material that had been worked on, and I knew what his ambitions were with it because we had been working on it up until the point where he passed. So 6 to 8 months passed after his passing, and then we decided to put out the material. And in 2020, we actually put out the record Amends with all of the vocal tracks with Chester on it and some guest stars. And the band put it out and it did really well. I think we had 5 songs that charted in the top 25. One went all the way to number 2 on Billboard.
That's
and
amazing.
Amazing success. But I think more importantly was there were several things that came through that. One of them was our healing for the loss of our friend. And we didn't realize that when we were working through the music, but it really was cathartic and made the music even more meaningful to us because we got to work with our friend who had passed through the grief stages, and it really culminated into something beautiful as far as the music that came through that.
So you're actually still creating a legacy for him and keeping that alive. And what does that mean to you so many years later?
Well, music's always been a passion of mine, and the loss of my friend doesn't mean that I don't have him around. Maybe in the physical sense, that's true, but I try to make sure that I have him included in any of the music projects that we're doing. So a few years passed after Chester had passed, and we decided to play some live shows, and we brought in another singer named Chris, and the band became something new.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's new life to the band where it's not just in memory of Chester, which was the initial intention of putting out those records, which I think was a great purpose. And we did our job in paying homage to our friend, which was very special and unique. And as time went on in 2024, 2025, bringing Chris on to sing live, now we have new music that we've recorded with him. And the band has a new life and somewhat of a new identity and different purpose moving forward.
Oh. So are you going to be speaking on any stages anytime soon?
Possibly. We might be speaking at your events coming up. I always enjoy doing that. I've spoken at a few of your...
You're an amazing speaker. People always want to know business advice from you every time you come. Well, I'm excited to see you, this new chapter in your life, because we go back since 2017 and he has evolved, you guys. He's really stepped into brand and multiple brands. I mean, can we talk about some of the brand deals you have right now?
Sure. I've always believed in collaborative efforts. They're a force multiplier, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And through my business journey, I've done interesting deals with brands like Etnies Shoe Company, Soul Technologies, or Bicycle Playing Cards, or Oster Hair Clippers. Just unique market positions that are not necessarily in the same industry, but they add different synergies when you put them together. And I think that vision of where I think I could take my brand was unique in itself and has kind of opened the doors for a lot more things as they've come to fruition. Currently, I just started a new company with another high-end brand called Inked. And it's a global media company
Wow.
in the tattoo space.
Wow.
But we also have brick and mortar stores that we're opening up, high-end studios in different parts of the country, and we're scaling that as we speak.
Wow. Do you even have time to speak anymore? You're all over the place touring and opening stores. That's amazing, Sean.
That's a really unique, let me rephrase that. That is a really good question, because I don't have time to do stuff I don't want to do. And that is an important thing, is figuring out what it is you love doing. And you'll make time for things you love to do. So find what it is you don't like doing, get rid of it, so that when the opportunity comes to actually do something you do want to do, you can dive in.
Oh, I love that. Well, we've run out of time, but that's a perfect note to end the show on. Sean, thank you so much. Will you come back?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
This has been Lea Woodford with Speaker Life, and I just want to say a personal message. If you're a new speaker out there, hit the like and subscribe button, because we have amazing guests like Sean Dowdell. We had Robert Kiyosaki earlier. These are legends and icons that are not only going to help you in business, but they're also going to help you with your speaking career.